Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. My name is Jackson Alatesh, and today we're taking a look at Planet Coaster. This video has been a long time in coming from my end. The big reason behind that is because going through every feature that this game has to offer results in a video that takes up an extraordinary amount of time, and nobody wants to sit and listen to me drone for that long. So we'll start out with the initial feature right here on the main menu, which is the play button, and the game modes that we have. So for goofing off or just generally making a complete ruckus of things, you got the sandbox. As the name implies, unlimited money, unlimited fun, just build something and see if it sucks or not. You have the career mode, which I quite enjoy. It gives you some kind of structure to the park. Like, for example, we jumped here on the fairy tale. We have the great tree. They say this tree is the heart of the world. Can you respect Mother Nature and craft an eco-friendly theme park around the towering tree? Or will you sell the woodland for profit and squeeze as much as you can from this verdant environment? I like the idea of having some kind of structure when I play these games because I'm not the best in the world at sandbox games. I generally get stuck in an infinite loop, and then it's like when playing cities. All of my cities look pretty much the same. In SimCity, they look pretty much the same with some minor differences. So for those of us who are less imaginative, just natively, the career mode works out nicely. Additionally, there are also the challenge modes where you can go and, in my case, make a whole bunch of theme parks all look about the same on different biomes and starting out with different amounts of money. And the other thing is the cooler rides are locked away behind research that you need to do. And speaking of research, we're going to go ahead and jump into a game in progress. So in this case, this is one of the career mode parks that you jump into, and it's called Creature Awakens. It's the second one of the initial pirate theme stuff. Rumors of engineers being sticky ends scared off the park staff and led to its recent sale. The bargain price represents irresistible opportunity, so hire some new staff and get going with it already. Alright, so looking at it initially, the first thing that you'll notice when you fire up this game is that the graphics are great. The amount of detail that's put into things, like say the people that are walking around, what they happen to be looking at, you can see right away whether or not they're having themselves a good time and enjoying themselves in the park. If there's litter on the ground, that is also very well detailed, allowing you, I don't know, if you're one of them folks that screams and bangs on about immersion all day long, I would reasonably state that thanks to pixel-perfect rendering of litter in a virtual theme park, you could probably find yourself immersed. Anyhow, looking around the park at other things, the next thing that after I got done zooming all over the place and making myself seasick was I pulled up the park management stuff here. And this gives you an entire idea of what's going on in your park. So I can take a look. Here are the top 5 things that people are thinking as they wander around in my happy little money-sucking park. So folks are like, well, hey, the Kraken's Lair has a long queue, there's litter on the floor, the park is very spacious. Basically, that's a nice way of saying there's not a whole lot here to look at. And then folks that are saying, hey, the queue is just too long for that. Over the middle page, we got the staff summary. It shows me the breakout of my of the individuals that I have in my staff and their general happiness. And going back over here at the guest tab, because it wouldn't be complete unless we made at least one U-turn, you can take a look at the demographic of the guests who have entered the parks. And at the moment, you can see the family group guest it's catching up, but is not fully there. We'll get into the reason why they say that it's catching up in just a moment after we discuss the third tab. The rides and attractions. How many flat rides do I have? How many coasters? Shops and facilities, and how much stuff is broken down. I can also take a look at and see what's the most popular. So with the way that I'm pushing the marketing for this park, Teacups 1, I can absolutely see it as being the most popular attraction in the park, just because I'm attempting to drive more of a family demographic in there. So I can also take a look at the summary of finances, summary of marketing, and research. The marketing is what is driving my demographics here, my family group guests, up. So when I initially started that, the family group guest was the smallest segment in the park by far. As of yet, I'm not familiar with exactly what attracts the different individuals. It may just be something based on RNG and what type of family ends up showing up. So looking elsewhere here in the park management, you've got finances. As is obvious, you'd want to know exactly where you're spending your money, where it's going, how much you're spending on construction, when you're just going nuts building stuff, which is very easy to do, losing your entire day in the process. You can also take a look at other cash. You can take a look at your loans, any cash rewards that you may get for any of the interesting things in the game. You can also take a look at a real live version of the cash flow. Where are we at this month? So it works out fairly well. Now, the month system is broken out into days and nights, which works out fairly nicely. Basically, one day in the game is 1 month worth of game time. So we can look here and see that we're September the 4th of year number 2. And as the time clicks on, up here, it'll end up taking to September 5th, so on and so forth. Where at the end of the day, we're sitting at September 28th, and 28th, 29th, 30th, whatever the case may be, depending on the month that you're stuck in. And then it will click over to the next month. So looking elsewhere at the management, one of the things that I appreciate about the game is that I can see why these people are running. They are charging towards the restroom. Good call. I can take a look at where these folks are going and see that they're going to Hyperspin 3. And they say, well, hey, Rocktopus 15 was awesome, and we got a bargain with tickets. So what I would say for that is, since the Rocktopus is fairly popular and we're billing per ride, we're going to bump this guy up to $5 and see if we can, I don't know, a good value is fantastic, but a slightly less good value that still attracts a bunch of folks and puts money in my pocket is even better, because that's how theme parks do things. So they're happy that the restrooms are free. You can, in fact, set the restrooms to charge people, but I think that would be, I don't know, a step gone too far. Hey, come to my park, ride my rides, drink my beverages, eat my food, and then I'm going to rip the money out of your wallet when it comes time to, choose between paying me and peeing in your pants. That just doesn't seem to be a very good option. Then again, knowing my luck, it's probably one of the best money makers that you could ever possibly have. That brings us to the whole concept of money within Planet Coaster. Really, I found the money to be fairly free-flowing. I mean, obviously, you can optimize it. One of the things I appreciate about the game is that you can optimize using relatively sound financial principles. So, for example, if you have something such as this guy over here called the Kraken's Lair. With the Kraken's Lair, the queue, when I initially started up the park, the ticket price was I think it was $22 or $23, and half the park was complaining about the queue being full, the queue being long. So what I did to offset that is I increased the price of it, thereby causing anybody on the fence to fall off the fence and go ride something else. The other thing that I did was I sped up the number of cars, or sped up the speed that the cars are going. I moved them from 7 miles an hour to 12 miles an hour, which does shorten up the ride, also lowering the value proposition and pushing people that are on the fence basically off the side of the fence. Now, as you can see here from this thing, basically it's one of those cool little ride-along fun little rides that you go through, and it's got some sights and some sounds and some blinky things, and this one's almost over. Let's see. There we go. So you've got animatronics going on. You have all kinds of lights and stuff built. I would love to take credit for actually designing this, but I didn't. It came with the park, but it can be designed with the tools that the park gives you. And as with most things in this, you can just simply take a look at the individuals that are on your ride to gauge and get an idea of whether or not they're enjoying themselves without necessarily having to wait until, Sally Fields here decides she's jumping off the end of it, and then click on her to find out what's going on. So the Kraken's still has a long line in the opinion of some individuals. That's just fine. We'll leave it as is and see if the line still continues to get slightly shorter. The other thing we can take a look at is these folks are heading to the Kraken's Lair, but Bullet 1 looks amazing, which is the roller coaster over here. So yeah, the Kraken's Lair is a great value right now. So one thing you can do is you can click on various people. You can see if everyone says, or if a bunch of people think that, oh boy, about to have a restroom emergency. That's fun. Anyhow, as far as that long queue is concerned, you can see how long the queue will take for individuals to get through. 65 minutes worth of queue in this case. So, yeah, waiting for an hour and 5 minutes to go on a ride, I would probably never do that. But then again, some of these folks are just brave. I would also not pay, $30, give or take? Yeah, exactly $30 for something that's not exactly as long as it probably should be. Anyhow, from the park management perspective, it's making me a nice chunk of change. The queue scenery rating is all on, so to speak. Speaking of the rides and the amount of metrics you can pull off of them, one of the things that I really enjoy with this guy is any of the rides, actually, specifically the roller coasters, because those are the most malleable, is you can take a look at the exact test ratings that you get. You can see the excitement, the fear, the nausea. Ideally, you want to keep those in the green, although with one of the coasters that I made had the nausea in the red, and my janitors were very, very gainfully employed doing it. You can also take a look at live metrics as to exactly what's going on, how many Gs your individuals are experiencing. And you can look at the results of the test before you open the ride. With roller coasters, they must be tested before anybody can go riding. So you can take a look at the maximum G's that the thing pulls, the number of inversions, how many times the butts will come out of seat, how many seconds that amounts to, the scenery rating on it, which at this point is pretty well low, deplorable. I mean, there's nothing but a couple of trees hanging out there. How long it is, your speeds, etc. And then comes the really cool feature. You can turn on a heat map of the thing, and it will give you an idea of where your ride is good and where your ride sucks. So in this case, this nice chair red here is because there's not much excitement. Okay, so with the trip back to the station and the trip up the hill, I'm not really concerned about it being very exciting. Quite frankly, I don't think it's necessarily possible to have a chain-pulled roller coaster that just thrills the pants off you as you're climbing the hill. So, this is obviously not going to be that. Then, as you can see, as you can see, we're going back into the menus here. As you drop down the hill and you begin going through things, you can see that it gets fairly exciting. It has its peaks and valleys. People like going fast. They like zipping along. It gets a little less exciting as you're being flung around through stuff. But yeah, whatever. Rides are all a variety of stuff. You can take a look at the fear and see what is more terrifying versus less terrifying. When building the ideal coaster, you want to keep everything in the green. As you can see here, everything is not in the green. Generally, this section down through here and around the railing is considered utterly terrifying. I'm okay with that because they'll pay me for them to be okay with that. I can also take a look at the nausea. Obviously, if you have too much nausea, you will end up with little green puddles, which are as detailed as the litter we discussed earlier, scattered around your park. So you can also take a look at the speed that's going on with respect to the whole ride and figure out, where's going fast, where's going slow, etc. So some folks like speedy coasters, some folks not as much. You take a look at the amount of G's that people are pulling. So such as in here, for one moment they're pulling 5.79 G's. Do that for too long, you're going to black out your occupants, which is a thing that can absolutely happen. But I like the fact that you can gain that amount of detail and that amount of perception on a ride and how a ride is going. And if all else fails, if all else completely fails, you can go and get yourself a nice little camera and take a ride on your own ride. Now, know that there are roller coasters in this game that are built by a blueprint. This is not one of those. This one was built by yours truly. It didn't take me all that long. Once you get used to the idea of building a roller coaster and you can just think about how one goes, the tool set is actually fairly extraordinary for the purposes of handling all that. So let's click and let's see if people are enjoying themselves. Yes, they are. And then we can see what they see as they get flung around through this thing and then head down the hill before looping around the path. So it is interesting to note that when you're building your coaster, pretty well the sky's the limit. So, when I started this out, I'm like, well, let's see if we can loop it around, this, that, or the other. So now in one of the other coasters that I managed to build myself, I knocked out all of the occupants on the roller coaster. They probably did not appreciate that nearly as much as I appreciated watching them get knocked out over and over and over. So speaking of getting knocked out, as we discussed, the game does respond to some financial and modeling tweakings. Like, for example, over here, you see that there are two of these cool little milkshake dispensaries in here. When I closed the second one, there was not a whole lot of foot traffic through the first one. So the idea here is that I can go ahead and open this bad boy back up. And the hope is that it will become packed with occupants. One thing that I've noticed is depending on the map that you're on, the drinks will sell better or the drinks will sell worse. Now, as far as the actual drinks are concerned and the stands that they're in, this stand is one of the stock ones. Let's see if we can find it here. Let's go for shops and facilities, and then we'll take a look at drink shops. So this guy is one of these bad boys, except made some simple modifications to it, went ahead and turned it back into a blueprint. So if I click on the blueprint section, where would it be? Why don't we just click custom? Alright, well, apparently that did not end quite as well as I thought that it should have. Any which way, there was an attempt made to save this guy as a blueprint, but since that didn't work, we can just simply take this guy and save him as a blueprint. So, yeah, and there it is, right there. Anyhow, I'll find it at some point in the future. Anyhow, you can go and you can make anything that you happen to build and devote time to into a blueprinted structure. Part of the reason that this comes in very handy is because this building is not one building, it is a collection of parts. You can edit the building, and like, let's say I don't like this where it's at. I can go ahead and I can scoot them all over the place. I can stick it on the roof so you can see it from the roller coaster and hopefully start salivating as you're being slung all over the place. Yeah, you can go quite a ways with it, moving things all over the place, and then just save something as a blueprint. It works out really, really nicely. Now, looking at the amount of scenery that's around the park, in the case of this park, most of you are probably looking at it thinking, man, this guy sucks at building parks, and I absolutely agree with you. I am not the greatest. I probably never will be, but I have fun, and that's what games are here for. The amount of scenery and such that's included with this game is absolutely astonishing. So any of the stuff that's pre-made is all made out of stuff, assets from within the game. So, for example, this little house that's sitting here with a tunnel over it that goes over the Kraken's Lair ride, all of that was put there, all that was stuck there by an individual who felt that it would be a very good idea to do so. And the end result is it looks great. So for those of you who are much more creative than I, this game will provide you probably countless hours of digging around and messing with stuff. The construction of the scenery is also not necessarily limited to just the things that you can see in the menus. So, for example, over here we look at this rock formation and you're like, well, that is somewhat aesthetically pleasing. It's also a whole bunch of individual rocks that have been stuck together in a mannerism as to hopefully be somewhat aesthetically pleasing. All this brushwork you see down here, these guys are actually plants that are just simply sunk into the ground. So you stick it to the ground, you hold down shift, you scoot it down, and then you just click and there you go. The other nice thing is that if you should happen to do something, I don't know, let's say incorrigibly dumb, like, let's say we're playing with teacups and the cat jumps up. Oh no, we just deleted teacups. Whatever are we going to do? First off, you got a lot of guests that just got teleported back to the path because the game doesn't lose you guests when you screw up. But you can press Control Z and put it all right back. Granted, you get money taken out of your account for it, but it shouldn't be any more than you got put in there. So, proof of concept here. We hit delete. We gained 675. Control Z. Took away 675. Then we just go ahead and click open, and off we go to the teacups. So, looking around at this thing, once again, not the best person for building queues, but if the people want to pay me to stand in my terrible queues, then by all means, I'm willing and ready to take their money as a theme park owner. So one of the nice things it gives you is on the rides, it shows you the queue time, how much it's made you, and then the queue scenery rating. So obviously, if a ride has better scenery, folks will be more attracted to it in some cases. In this case, they don't seem to be, I don't know, very interested in that. Then again, it could be a demographic thing. It could be the fact that I've got the park split into two halves with very little cross-section in between them. There could be any number of reasons for that. In other parks where I've mixed the rides together, you end up with a max width thoroughfare that is just packed with people. That is fantastic. But seeing as this is one of the career mode maps, I'm not going to sweat it too terribly much. So looking right along, the thing that I enjoy absolutely the most about this game is the ability to jump on and look at the rides from obviously point of view. Now some of them are going to be kind of lame. Like this guy, the cinematic camera's all good and fine. Take a look at people's interest, which that works out as well for just seeing whether or not they're enjoying themselves. But when you actually put the camera facing and seeing what they see, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be quite as intriguing, so to speak. This guy, more or less, same story you've got there. It is fun to watch people and see the expressions that folks make as they get whirled around on these things. Some are happy, some are jovial. Generally, in these cases, these two look to be teenagers. However, this group over here, he is not having a great day, and she does not look to be having a great day. Looking around, it seems like, I don't know, most of the folks enjoying this are either teenagers or teenagers. Anywho, even though it's not necessarily the greatest thing for those rides, it can be used to great effect and great fun just watching your little sim individuals enjoy the ever-living daylights out of themselves. And that also applies to these transportation type rides, where you can get a bird's eye view of what's going on. That one's boring. Alright, here we go. So you're moving into a cavern, and if these transportation rides are something that thrills you and excites you, everything that can be seen in this, which was pre-made, I do not take credit for building something quite this nifty. Everything that can be seen here was made with the tools that come with the game, was made with the assets that are in the game, so there's none of that business where the developers make something really sweet that you then can't go and replicate using your own power, which is just a horrible decision in game making, but by the same token, it happens from time to time. You can also take a look and see whether or not the people are enjoying it just by looking at them. But anyhow, that's pretty much the highlights of what I enjoy about the game. As I mentioned at the outset of this video, going through and looking at every single detail and explaining how each detail interrelates to every other single detail, probably something that would take an inordinate or a completely obnoxious amount of time. That being said, if there's anything that you'd like particularly explained about these features, about the deeper features of the game, or if you're just mentioning them has got you all riled up, I would really like to know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video and this quick look, please feel free to click the thumbs up button, and if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. I always like to see new faces around the channel. Once again, my name is Jack Alatesh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you folks again soon.